to take that?
Well, I suppose I was very struck when you said that we need spaces where people can disagree, because we've just finished one conversation with that very sentiment, that we've created societies and cultures where people are no longer free to disagree with each other. They have to feel that they are right and that they are unchallenged and that they have power over the other person. And I suppose what I love so much about the dialogue process, and I don't know what philosophy of dialogue you use in your work, but I follow Bohm dialogue. So the principles of that are very close to my heart in how we could go about our daily lives, you know, listening very deeply to understand without judgment, being curious and inquiring into our thoughts and our assumptions and our underlying values and beliefs, and being able to move through disturbance. So being able to sit with people, listen to really what they're saying from their experience, and noticing if it triggers anything in us, and just being able to be with that, and being able to move through that conflict and that disturbance to a place of deeper understanding. So not necessarily agreeing with them at the end, being able to walk away going, I still don't agree, but I understand and I see why you hold that belief or you think that thing because you've had that experience. And that's such a powerful transformational tool, and something that we don't often give the time and space to. And I think that's some of the challenges that we've had, is that people, the dialogue process is long. Like, to get to that deeper level of understanding, you have to sit with people and listen for long periods of time, and time is money. And so people are so used to wasting time in meetings, whereas what we really have lost is the ability to come together and meet together on a different level. And so, yeah, it's definitely something that I feel very passionate about, and will be a driving force for change, as if we can bring people together in a different way, to communicate in a different way. And obviously it would be lovely to hear more about your experience of those dialogues that you had, and whether you used Bohm dialogue, and what were the challenges that you faced in bringing people together with different views.
Well, Jessica, like you, I believe that listening is absolutely fundamental to the resolution and even the prevention of conflict, especially armed conflict. And it takes a real awareness and quite a degree of self-knowledge to listen well. You'll remember that Senator George Mitchell, who played a huge part in resolving the Northern Ireland problems that we'd used military force to try and deal with for 30 years. And then finally it was realized that dialogue was the only way. And he said when he arrived, I will listen for as long as it takes. And I know from experience that there are different ways of listening. And yes, the Bohm dialogue is very good. I'm more persuaded by NVC, nonviolent communication.
Yeah. My other arm.
I realize that there's something deeper as well, that unless we have actually attended to our inner emotions about the subject under discussion, and dealt with them, addressed them, resolved them inside ourselves, it's always possible for the person that we're trying to open a dialogue with or persuade to detect what we're unconsciously projecting. And I know this because when I first started to arrange dialogues with nuclear weapons policymakers, it was unsuccessful. It really didn't work. And I didn't learn until a little bit later that the reason why was that I and my colleagues were still angry, very angry, about the development of nuclear weapons without parliamentary discussion. And secondly, fearful of an accidental nuclear war, if not an intentional one. And it was only when I really learned to meditate and attend to my own inner deep, profound feelings, even unconscious feelings, that I was able to become conscious enough of them not to project them out onto those I was talking with or listening to. So I feel that these two things self-knowledge, self-awareness, self-reflection by any means that is appropriate to the individual. That could be a daily reflection practice. It could be yoga and physical calming of the self. It could be really profoundly alert walking in nature. It could be all sorts of things. It could be going and staying in a Buddhist monastery and getting really good at the practice. But some form of self-inspection in all the great peace builders that I know, and I work with literally hundreds of them now all over the world through Peace Direct, the second organization I started, that those who have done this inner work are the ones who are most effective in their outer work. So that's the first, for me, primary requisite in leadership, any kind of leadership, that we have first really learned to sort ourselves out and understand ourselves and be charitable and kind to ourselves instead of constantly critical. Because most people are, when I go to a meeting and I ask how many people have got an inner critic, every hand goes up in the room. So we need to attend to that. Otherwise it just gets in the way. And then secondly, this question of really learning to listen. And when I teach corporate leaders about good communications, that's what I always start with. And I ask how many people in the room think that they are good listeners. And maybe 20 hands go up, or 30. And we discover that when we test it, that really very few people know how to listen deeply. And by that I mean not hearing the other person, but working out what the answer is or what we want to say or how they're completely arbitrary, making judgments of this, but actually listening in such a way that we could repeat back to them what they had just said. And not only that, but what the feelings were behind what they said. And so we test that over several hours and eventually work out what really good listening is. And what it means is being able to move from here, from my brain, which says I'm right, you're wrong, to the heart. When I listen to it and think, goodness, that's how she feels. Because then I can begin to build a bridge across to your feeling, and hopefully we would make it reciprocal. So you would be able to bridge to my feelings, and then we're in business for an agreement.
Yeah.
Then we're operating from the heart instead of the brain.